The biggest celebrity in the world, but when you see yourself on a billboard, it's crazy the reaction. We just worked with Shopify and Alex Earl's new brand, Real Actives, to kind of unveil the brand. And literally, like, you saw her reaction when she saw that ad go on for the first time, and it was like, it wasn't fake. It was genuine. Oh my God, I'm up there. And it's exciting. I just think it's like you're at the center of the world, right? Like, it doesn't matter how successful Alex Earl, everything she touches right now turns to gold.
Yep.
She launches a brand which sold out in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And she's there, and she's so incredibly excited about a digital screen in Times Square. I've seen it with a handful of celebrities too. I've gotten to work with some really fun ones.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Ad Podcast, broadcasting live from Possible in beautiful Miami. We've got Brian Rappaport, the CEO of Quan Media. Brian, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. What brought you to Possible this year? Tell us about your shop.
Yeah, founder of Quan. We're 6.5 years in. We are an out-of-home advertising. I call us a concierge. We do everything and anything in the out-of-home space. We are essentially here to work with brands to help them show up in the real world in a smart and strategic way. So everything from billboards to walls, to painted murals, to airport, to activations, experiential, we do it all. And I like to say that we work with fun brands: Skims, HubSpot, Prize Picks, Way, Farmer's Dog, Lesser Evil, Olipop, all the good ones.
Nice,
so,
great roster.
Yeah.
So last time I checked on the research, only 5% of media bought is out of home.
Yeah.
What do you think? It feels like digital boards and digital out of home and things like you were talking about, like smart activations with robots or murals, some of these more creative ways to engage social audiences with outdoors. Like I remember we worked on a campaign once where we built a interactive rock climbing wall in Times Square out of a billboard, and then had social media influencers climb the wall.
I remember that exact wall. I know exactly where that was.
The Saatchi one.
Yeah, it was sick.
So, what can the industry do at large, do you think, to move that 5% into more and more plants?
I think first and foremost, it's education, right? I think a lot of marketers out there, as well as, agency figureheads that aren't familiar with out-of-home, aren't familiar with out-of-home. They don't realize that it's now measurable. They don't realize how quick you can go to market. Digital out-of-home, you can be live within the hour.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We work with brands sometimes that will literally send us creative, in the morning on a Monday and say, look, we want to go live
so you can
today.
Be responsive with your out-of-home campaigns.
It's no longer a 6 to 8 week lead time. It's no longer you're going to run out of inventory if you don't plan, 8 months in advance. And then on top of that, you could understand who has seen your ad and who has taken action, who has gone to your website, who has gone into your store, who has downloaded your app. I think that out-of-home and measurement are still not a perfect match yet, but it's come so far that all the tools are there for brands to invest more. We just got to educate further. So that's what we do.
What are some of the innovations that you think are happening where you see measurement becoming more and more of a reality, giving kind of the last click model to out of home, or at least being able to include it in part of the media mix?
Yeah, I think, it ultimately depends on a brand's KPI, but I do think that like the offline to online attribution is super interesting, being able to pixel a site and understand through anonymous mobile location data, who was exposed to this wall and then who went to, Lesser Evil's site, or who went into a store and purchased Lesser Evil. I mean, even the retail experience is still a little bit refined. The actual exposure to purchasing said product is still a little bit rocky, but you can kind of generate an understanding of that, especially when you're working with a brand who has sales data in-house, and then you kind of marry the two together. So it's all right there. It doesn't matter what category you're in, whether it's fintech, whether it's daily fantasy sports, whether it is CPG, like the measurement is there. You just kind of have to determine what the KPI is that you're looking for.
Do you think with digital out of home, the opportunity to do personalization is going to become more and more real? Like where I get a special billboard when I'm walking, within a certain proximity from a digital board, or even in my car. If I'm a high value consumer, why wouldn't that digital board be able to bid for my attention at that exact moment, flash something to me that says, hey, Dylan, did you check your, check your inbox for XYZ? Or do you think that's a distraction?
No, I think that's where we're going. Maybe not from a driving standpoint, because, you deal with safety. It's why you can't put a QR code on a roadside billboard.
Yeah.
But,
there's certain things from a user experience that you got to kind of follow best practices.
Yeah, but like a digital bus shelter or a digital kiosk with the digital screens in subway stations. If I walk by and I'm shown an ad for aloe, and then my wife walks by and she's shown an ad for Hermes, it would make sense. And I do think that's where we're going. I think involving the senses with out of home is another thing. Obviously, a lot of brands have played with scent and more immersion and interactivity with boards. And I think we're seeing quite a resurgence of experiential, which is really exciting. It was a little bit of touch and go coming out of the pandemic, but that's so in the past now that brands want to engage consumers one-to-one. So they're all trying to one-up each other. What can we do to like really grab their attention?
I love that. I actually saw some really interesting digital boards in the airport when I landed here. Who knows, maybe there's a vendor that's, serving them and they wanted to actually use it as a use case study, but it definitely grabbed my attention. It was Things Are Better with Friends. It was the slug line, and it was F1 and Heineken, together in the same board.
I love it.
Do you think that's something that is being like dynamically thought of, like, oh, okay, like if we put these two brands together in this moment because the F1 races are next week, that's going to be more impactful?
I think so. I think it's a mix, obviously, of two brands being intelligent and smart and coming together, and obviously Heineken realizes the contextual relevance and they're going ahead and doing that. But at the very same time, I literally, two of our brands are on the same street corner on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. On one giant wall, you have a maternity brand, and on the opposing wall, you have a stroller brand. And it was not planned, but I was walking with my wife and son the other day, and I'm like, I still get excited to see my out-of-home 18 years in. And I was like, oh my God, that was not planned, but the contextual relevance, I should reach out to both these brands. They should be doing, obviously a brand collab together. But yeah, I think Heineken, they did something with that Friend AI situation a few months ago when there was all this drama around it in New York City, and they played into that, and they seem to be a brand that understands when and where to show up.
Yeah, I love that. A big trend that we've seen over the last couple of years is like influencers will go to Times Square, they'll take a selfie with their ad of themselves like in Times Square. How are you seeing creators who are these massive figures in social media still really want to see themselves up on traditional advertising formats? It kind of feels like a coming of age moment or something like that, where they can like literally wait for their ad to show up. They take a selfie, they show up in the real world in order to, what is it about that format that helps them feel like they're more legitimate for some reason?
It's brand legitimacy, like you said, but it's the funniest thing. You could be the biggest celebrity in the world, but when you see yourself on a billboard, it's crazy, the reaction. We just worked with Shopify and Alex Earl's new brand, Real Actives, to kind of unveil the brand. And she did it in two-prong. One was an empty billboard in Soho, and she mailed out puzzle pieces to all of her influencer friends, and they all came over the course of 24 hours and put the billboard together, which was
really
pretty
cool.
sick. And then 2 days later, we took over a screen in Times Square for a full 30 minutes. She was the only brand up, Real Actives. It was the true unveiling of the brand. And she came with a full camera crew. She's filming, I think, something for Netflix. And literally, like, you saw her reaction when she saw that ad go on for the first time. And it was like, it wasn't fake. It was genuine. Oh my God, I'm up there. And it's exciting. I just think it's like you're at the center of the world, right? Like, it doesn't matter how successful Alex Earl, everything she touches right now turns to gold.
Yep.
She launches a brand which sold out in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And she's there, and she's so incredibly excited about a digital screen in Times Square. I've seen it with a handful of celebrities too. I've gotten to work with some really fun ones. And it's like they could be the most A-list celebrity, A-list athlete, but once they're on a billboard, that's what's on their Instagram, that's what's on their story. They're beyond excited.
I love it. So that's obviously a very thoughtful, creative campaign, this idea of the puzzle piece.
Yeah.
So is that part of what you do as an agency, is not just place the media, but you also help with the ideation and come up with that creative execution, or is that done in partnership with other agencies?
It's kind of, to be fair, it's 50-50, right? Like,
Yep.
to be fair and to not take credit for someone else's work, like Shopify and Real Actives kind of came up with that, and we helped them obviously secure the right placements and handle everything in Times Square. We would rather be on the creative brainstorming side. Me and my team are all out-of-home veterans. We've been doing this for a while, so while we may not have been as intricately involved in the creative processes, of that last summer, when an AI brand that wanted to reach high net worth individuals heading out to the Hamptons wanted to do something fun, we brought to them a partnership with Blade and the idea of wrapping seaplanes and wrapping helicopters and having lounge signage, which was something that hadn't really been done by many brands before. And when a lot of brands think about hitting people going out east, they wrap the Hampton Jitney, which is great. Mm-hmm. This was really contextually relevant to their audience, spot on, and they loved it, they did it, and that's us going to a brand with an idea, with a creative concept. And so I would say it's maybe more 60-40 we do that.
Nice.
But we're here to make clients happy. So if they want a sick board in Soho, we're going to find them that sick board in Soho. Yeah.
Let's go. We've got some big contextually relevant moments in kind of culture happening over the next couple of years. World Cup,
Yeah.
F1 races expanding. You've got America 250 and LA 28 all coming up. How can outdoor and really support cultural tent poles, whether it's the billboards on the way to Coachella or things like that? Like, are you thinking about those moments in time in which brands can kind of help dominate the conversation, support big sponsorships, or even do guerrilla things to get share of voice?
It's really exciting. I think for us, out of home, there are so many opportunities to show up at these events. World Cup especially, I mean, forget about the fact that a lot of our media partners are adding premiums to their inventory. There are new and unique opportunities rolling out. There are these beautiful brand new digital podiums lining, Inglewood in LA, which is right by SoFi, right by Intuit. So like just in time for World Cup, that's an amazing opportunity. You have the ability to wrap the hotel right next to MetLife Stadium, which is host arena, never available before, something that's unique to World Cup. So brands can show up there. They obviously can go the more traditional route and buy packages of digital billboards and show up in airports, but there's no shortage of touch points for brands to show up. And I think right now it's World Cup focus. You have America 250 as well, which is in there. But then as soon as this is over, I think Super Bowl being in a top 2 DMA, LA will be next. And then you're going to start to get the LA 28 excitement going. That's when it starts to ramp up. So we have a lot of brands. We have our brands that plan out, but then we have a lot of brands now that have been waiting, and they're really getting into the World Cup planning now, ready to like kind of jump in and see what's still there. And fortunately, there's still a lot of inventory available. So
AR and VR hasn't quite become ubiquitous yet, but Meta's definitely getting a lot of their hardware out in the world, and probably some of the next iterations of smart glass are going to have overlays on the physical world. Do you think that's going to be an interesting opportunity? Would you consider that an outdoor execution if there's a virtual overlay on an existing world?
I think that, yes. I think that we haven't really tapped into it as much as we should. I do remember a few years ago when the show Watchmen came out on HBO, they did these, they had the whole AR digital bus shelters where like you were able to stand inside a shelter in New York City, look through the screen and see like squid raining outside. And that played into like a theme of the show, and it was pretty amazing. It looked exactly like it would be outside the bus shelter, except it obviously wasn't. So starting to play with AR, obviously VR, it's been talked about in out of home for a while, but I think we're getting to the point now where it will be more relevant, and it really comes down to the brand who has the creative chops to kind of weave that into what campaigns they're running.
Love it. If folks want to follow your thinking or reach out and get in touch, where do you want to send them?
I post a lot on LinkedIn, so just come find Brian Rappaport, or BRappy55 on Twitter. You will get some Yankees and Knicks, but you will get a lot of marketing and out of home as well on there. So just mute me when it's that time of the year.
Awesome, man. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.